Well, never in a million years did I ever think I'd be making this kind of video on my YouTube channel, but Meek Drunk Scam decided to say something stupid and speak on things that he knows nothing about. And so I have to correct this, not only because he's just downright wrong and this guy's an absolute clown, as many of you guys know, but he decided to post this thumbnail right here where he specifically decided to put a bunch of black kids that look just like me behind a picture of him in his title of his video that says millionaire accused of white privilege lashes out, rich versus poor. Now, why he put a bunch of black people behind him, I don't know. I'm not saying it's necessarily racist, but it is weird. If this is a video about white privilege and how it doesn't exist, why are you specifically targeting black people and putting that in your thumbnail? And why do you have black people who look like they're in a, you know, I don't know what neighborhood that is, but they're playing basketball? It's a weird picture. And then on top of that, you have black kids in your thumbnail as well. These are kids. So it's just really weird, dude. But that's okay. We're going to go ahead and correct all this stuff. So the only reason why I'm even making this video is I've gotten a ton of people messaging me saying, you got to talk about this. Okay, fine. I'll talk about it. And again, we're not pulling the race card here. You know, I'm not a fan of pulling the race card. Most of you guys know what my views are on life and building wealth and different things like that. But the reason why I'm going to specifically talk about racial inequality as relates to black people is because Kevin decided to put black people behind the thumbnail in his video with his picture. And it's just weird. So let's go ahead and actually play this video, okay? We're going to play a little bit of it. So he says here, white privilege and race, which for those who don't know, Kevin has a history of talking about race. And I don't know why, but he does. I got to find the other videos. He's got other videos too, where he's talked about like racism before and stuff like that. I don't know why he has videos like that. I think he should shut up because he honestly knows nothing about it. These are some black people right here reacting to his video. This is the real reason why blacks are poor. That's the name of the video. Yeah, that's a really weird video too. Let me show you guys. This is the reason blacks are... see right here, me, Kevin, and he got a lot of views for it. He got 329,000 views. He put the real reason blacks are poorer than whites. It's really weird for somebody like him to put this kind of video out, because I know for a fact that Kevin doesn't know history. I know history because us in black households we're kind of taught it. History isn't really taught in the schools. You really have to go on Google and really look deeply to find it. However, in black households, we're taught it. So me having a black grandmother and a grandfather and great grandparents who, you know, obviously I come from descendants of slaves. My family way back were slaves. And then my great grandparents migrated from Mississippi and Louisiana to Chicago, Illinois during the Great Black Migration that took place way back when. And so in black households, these stories kind of stay with you. So when I say what I'm about to say, this doesn't come from some article from some woke leftist that got a degree in gender studies. This isn't that. This is me having the real experience through my grandparents who were literally telling me what happened. Like, yes, Jason, back in the 50s and the 40s and whatever, we got denied access to certain benefits that white people got. We got denied access to housing. We got denied access to this, to that. This is a real thing. And so the problem with Kevin is he could have done a better job in his video had he articulated that properly. But instead, what Kevin does is he says, oh, if you just work hard, you're going to make it, and blah, blah, and I don't want to hear any excuses, and blah, blah. And yes, in a lot of cases, yes, there are a lot of people who the reason why they're poor or they're not wealthy is because they make excuses and they're lazy and they don't work hard. Yes. However, when you specifically target a specific race like Kevin did by putting black people in the thumbnail, well, there's a bigger story to this, okay? Now, are there some black people who are poor because they're just lazy and don't want to work? Yes, just like there's people in other races, other racial groups that are in the same boat, right? But the problem with me, Kevin, is he made a very critical mistake. He made it seem as if any black person can make it and do well if they just work hard. And that's just not the case, folks. So we're going to listen to a little bit of this video, and then we're going to go ahead and comment. So let's see what he has to say.
Male privilege. Nothing that I just said has to do with race. I don't care if you're Asian, you're black, you're Latin American. If you want to make it in America and in capitalism, guess what? You provide value. I don't care what the color of your skin.
It's just not really true, you know. And the problem is Kevin is saying, I don't care what the color of your skin is. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't care, Kevin, because the United States cares. There have been systems in place for centuries that were literally put in place to keep black people down, to keep black people poor, to not give black people the same access to certain resources that white people got. And because of that, that's why we're in this situation right here. I'm going to show you. I believe it's in this article. Yes, that's why we're in this situation right here, where starting in 2016, the average median wealth of black families was $17,000. The average median wealth, oh, I'm sorry, the median wealth, not average. The median wealth for Hispanic families in 2016 was $20,000. However, on the other hand, the median wealth for white families in the United States in 2016 was $171. Why do whites overall, obviously not every white person is rich. There's a lot of poor whites. I get it. But the median wealth of white families is significantly higher than blacks and also Hispanics. Why is that? So when you come on here and you say, I don't give a damn what your race is, I don't care, anybody can make it under capitalism, that's just not true. Because my grandparents, my great-grandparents, had no chance in hell of making it when there were systems in place that were put there to stop them from building wealth and making a good life for themselves. Now, yes, in today's day and age, it's really hard to make any excuses now, because even though, yes, there is still racism, it is significantly better. And we're in a situation now that because of the internet, you can really make a good life for yourself and build wealth in so many different ways. There's so many opportunities now than there were before. But the problem is, Kevin isn't mentioning that. He's making it seem as if every single person, no matter what race you are, can make it. That's just not the case. My great-grandparents never had a chance. My great-grandparents had to go through seeing some of their own people get lynched, see white people not only lynch these people, but then eat some of their body parts. And yes, you can look this up, folks. They actually did do this. This really happened. They also made postcards after they lynched black people in the 1920s and the 1910s. They would make postcards and hand them out in the church and hand them out on the street and tell all the, the white people in the town, hey, today we're going to lynch a black person after church. Be there at 12 o'clock. And there's actual pictures of these events happening. Now, I can't show the pictures because obviously YouTube is going to, who knows what YouTube will do to my channel if I show that stuff. But the bottom line is, you got to take history into account when you make comments like this. I don't have a problem with the message. If anybody else besides Meat Drunk Scam said this and included history, that would be much better. But because Meek Drunk Scam decided to put a bunch of black kids on the thumbnail and then go ahead and just say this generic, anybody can make it no matter what, without including history, that's the problem that I have. But of course, this guy doesn't know anything about history. He doesn't know. He has no idea what happened to black people and why we're in the situation we are. I also want to show this article right here. And again, I'm not making excuses. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely think that in today's age, I don't think anybody can make it. But I think a lot more people can make it today than ever before in history. And I do think that a decent amount of the population, no matter what race you are, the reason why they're broke or they're poor is because of bad decisions or bad financial habits. I definitely think that. However, that doesn't include everybody. There really are people out there who, because of the racial systems that were put in place to keep black people down, it's put them in a situation where they're probably never going to build wealth, right? Like we could really talk about this for hours, guys. Like I could really go deep into this. This might even need to have a live stream just to kind of educate people, because I know there are a lot of people out there. I'm sure there's some people out here who are fans of my channel who have no idea about the history. That's why I want to explain it. Because this story right here, I know about personally because I was told this from my grandparents. So it says right here, widespread racial bias found in home appraisals. I'm sure most of you guys know what home appraisals are. So basically, researchers did deep digging into home appraisals of people's houses, and they looked at it by race. And what they found was most people who were black got a much lower value on their home. As a matter of fact, their homes got appraised at a much lower value than it was worth just because of the color of their skin. Now, most of us know one of the main reasons why a lot of Americans, or this, let's go back to this article right here. One of the main reasons why white people even have this median wealth right here is because of housing. So when you deny people access to housing or the ability to buy a home, or you appraise them at a much lower value, that affects their ability to build wealth. And that's what leads to this number right here, where the median wealth of black families in 2016 is $17,000. Because if you're living in a home that's worth $200,000 and a white appraiser comes and they appraise it for $100,000, that it's bad. You know what I mean? And this stuff really happened. It really does. And it's happened all throughout history. 100%. So it says right here in this article, researchers found evidence of persistent practice that gives higher values to homes when occupants are white and devalue them if the owners are people of color. Folks, I can tell you right now, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. I got people in my family that has happened to. It is the absolute truth. And they basically talk about right here, the appraisals were compiled between 2013 and 2021, present evidence of a persistent widespread practice in the home appraisal industry to give higher values to homes when the occupants are white and devalue them if the owners are people of color. It's an absolute fact, folks. It absolutely happens. And so when you take into account things like this, let's say you worked hard, you bought a home, you did everything the right way. But because of racism and because of systems, this is what I need you guys to understand too. I know some of you guys who are watching are probably going to say, well, I'm not racist and blah, blah, blah. You might not be. You're probably not racist. I'm sure most of the people who follow me are not racist, and that's great. But you cannot deny the fact that there are systems in place, really old systems that go back hundreds of years that were put in place by racist lawmakers or racist whoever made these plans. And they put these systems in place specifically to exclude black people. And we're going to keep going through this because like I said, this is the story in the part that Kevin's not telling. And again, not everything he's saying is completely wrong. Like, yes, in today's day and age, there's a lot of opportunity, but not for everybody. Okay. And it's funny how he made this video saying, talking about white privilege. Let me go back to the video. It's funny how he made this video saying millionaire accused of white privilege. And then basically me, Kevin, makes this argument that there is no such thing as white privilege. He doesn't suffer from all that. But honestly, what he's doing is kind of something that a privileged person would do. Typically, people who are privileged can't even see their own privilege. So when they make videos like this, they show you why the privilege exists because they can't even see it. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. And it's like, I get it. If you, like, honestly, I highly doubt Kevin has ever even spoken to a black person about their experiences. I highly doubt it. He probably has never had a black friend, probably never spoken to black people, so he wouldn't know these things. He hangs out with all white people. All his friends are white. His little millennial money crew is white. All his interns that he hired are white. All his workers are white. I've never seen him with any black people or anything like that. And I'm not knocking it or anything like that. I'm not saying anything of it. But my point is, when you're not having these conversations and you don't know the history, you end up looking like a fool and you end up putting thumbnails with black kids behind it and just talking out your butt when you don't know what the hell you're talking about, meat drunk scam. So that's why people like me have to come and correct this. Okay, so we're going to keep going. So here's another article in CNBC research. So here's another article right here. Mortgage denial rate for black borrowers is twice that of the overall population. That's a huge problem. That would explain, once again, we're going to keep going back to this number right here. Why is the median wealth of black families 17,000? Why the median wealth of white families is 171,000? Is it because white people just work harder? Black people don't work harder? What is it? What could it be? If everybody has the same opportunity to make it, if everybody can make it in this country, no excuses, blah, 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 then why does this number exist? This number right here already disputes everything that me, Kevin, said in this video. Again, the reason why is because Kevin doesn't know his history. Kevin doesn't do any research. Kevin has never even talked to a black friend. I'm probably the only black person this guy's talked to. I'm not even joking. Can anybody name, if anybody personally who knows Kevin personally wants to speak to this, let me know. Because I just thought about this, guys, and this is actually pretty sad. Let me go to YouTube real quick. This is actually pretty funny. But if you go to my channel, that's the only time I can think of where me, Kevin, has ever spoken to a black person. Can we think of any other situation where he's ever spoken to a black person? I'm not even joking, guys. I'm serious. Like, I want to know. So let's just go to my channel. My highest viewed live stream ever is me and me, Kevin. So right here, this live stream of me and me, Kevin.
I had a little bit of wine.
Has there ever been another time where he's ever spoken to a black person? I'm just asking. I'm just asking. Can you name any other time where he's ever spoken? I'm probably the only black person he's ever talked to. For those who don't know, I'm kind of joking, so don't take it too seriously. It's kind of a joke. I'm just making fun, guys. He's probably talked to some black people, but my point is, there's probably very few that he's talked to where he would even get this information. And this is the problem too. Before you make videos like this, I think the smarter thing for him to do would have been to maybe talk to minorities in his Discord group. You know, his little private chat thing you got to pay like $900 for or whatever. I think it would have been wise to talk to those people first before making this video and just kind of seeing how they feel. Because like I said, you never want to speak on situations like this when you don't have any experience. Now, had Kevin grown up in a black neighborhood or had a bunch of black friends or spoken to a bunch of black people, then fine. But I almost know for a fact he hasn't. You know what I mean? Like, I'm probably the only black guy he's ever spoken to. That is really funny. I just thought about it. He's had a lot of people on his channel. Has he ever had a black person on his channel? Can you guys think? He's had the CEOs of all these different companies. I don't think he's ever had a black person. Maybe he has. You know what? Isn't the CEO of Carnival Cruise Line black? Did me and Kevin ever have him on there? Let me see. That would be the other black. Yeah, I don't know. No, never mind. I don't think he's ever had the CEO of Carnival Cruise Line. Yeah, so I'm the first black person he's ever talked to on YouTube. All right, I'll get off that subject. Okay, so back to the subject. Mortgage denial rate for black borrowers is twice that of overall population. Again, another disparity, guys. The mortgage denial rate for black borrowers is twice that of the overall population in the largest 50 metropolitan areas in the U.S., according to a report from LendingTree. Let's see. We're going to keep reading here. Where was I looking at? Hold on. The city with the biggest spread between mortgage denial rates for black borrowers and overall population was St. Louis, where the rate for blacks was 20% versus 7% for the overall population. See, this is the stuff that I'll be talking about. So when we go to the percentages, 20% more of black people are getting denied mortgages as opposed to 7% for the entire population. Does this mean that, oh, they all got denied because they're poor, they can't afford it? No, it's because of racial systems that were put in place. Listen, folks, no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, I don't care if you're Republican, independent, whatever, you cannot deny the fact that this country has a history of racism. You just can't deny it, folks. The country's gotten tremendously better. I will give this country its credit. We've gotten tremendously better. We've made a lot of strides. However, folks, you cannot deny the history. Because a lot of those systems that were put in place, and we're not even talking about on the federal level, we're just talking about each individual state. Some of that stuff still exists today, okay? And it's important you understand that. And again, Kevin is the one who made me do this. I didn't think I'd ever talk about this stuff on the channel, but I got to respond to Kevin. I can't let Meat Drunk Scam get away with this stuff. Okay, let's go to this other article right here, again, in CNBC. Why black workers still face a promotion and wage gap that's costing the economy trillions. Okay, let's go ahead and look. It says right here, black workers continue to face significant gaps in the labor market when it comes to promotion, pay, and opportunity, costing the U.S. economy trillions of dollars. This is absolutely true, guys. This is a fact. This absolutely happens. It says right here. Okay, that's a different article. Let's go to this part of the article. Today, black workers are overrepresented in low-wage entry-level jobs and underrepresented in senior and executive roles. Again, I will ask you the question: why is it that black people are overrepresented in low-wage entry-level jobs? Why are there tremendously more black people working as regular clerks, working at gas stations, working as a janitor, working minimum wage, working in low-wage entry-level jobs? I can tell you right now, when I go downtown to the city of Chicago, okay, every time I go downtown, whenever you go to the restaurants, the black people are sweeping and doing whatever. They're the clerks and stuff. And the white people are typically in management. This really is a fact. I'm not saying this is completely for every single situation. Of course, there are black people that have high positions. But what this article is highlighting, which is absolutely true, guys, is it says right here, in the U.S. private sector, black workers make up 7% of entry-level workforce and just, oh, no, I'm sorry. That's not what I'm reading. Where did I go? Sorry about this. Hold on. I have to find where I just was. Where is it at? Yeah, this part right here. Black workers are overrepresented in low-wage entry-level jobs and underrepresented in senior and executive roles. So this goes similar to like the Rooney Rule in the NFL, right? I know some people, I've seen YouTubers make this argument before. They say that, oh, black people get handouts because there are systems put in place now, like affirmative action and stuff like that, where they give a rule that organizations have to hire a certain amount of minorities into higher positions. But what's not being talked about is why that rule was even put into effect. Let's take the NFL. Why was the Rooney Rule put into effect? Well, you had a bunch of qualified black coaches who weren't getting the jobs. You had a league, the NFL, which is like 70, 80% black. Most of the players that do all the work and the entertainment and the winning and all that are black. However, the upper management, the coaches, the ownership, the president of football operations or basketball operations, whatever, were mostly white. They weren't black. So the NFL said, okay, because of racism and racial systems that were put in place that keep black people from getting ahead, and because the disparity is so wide, because the inequality is so wide, there's like almost every coach or owner is white. They were like, okay, we have to do something. So that's why the NFL put in the Rooney Rule, where you at least have to give black people a chance. There's a certain amount of black people that you have to at least interview for the job. And you guys got to understand where this stuff comes from. It's not wokeism. That's not wokeism. That comes from an actual history in segregation where they literally told black people, you can never work these jobs ever. It's always going to be white dominated, blah, 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 blah. It's the same thing in the workplace. Unfortunately, because of certain systems are put in place and because there is racism that still exists, there are situations where a lot more white people, and again, you can't deny it, the stats are right here. Black workers are overrepresented in low-wage entry-level jobs and underrepresented in senior leader and executive roles. Senior leader and executive roles, senior vice presidents, chief operating officers, stuff like that, are dominated by white people in this country. Why is that? You got to ask yourself these questions. Again, it goes back to what I was showing you. It goes back to that history. It goes back to the history of racial segregation. We didn't even get into redlining yet. We talked about home appraisals. We talked about wealth inequality in some aspects. We didn't even talk about redlining, folks. I have a personal story with this because my grandparents, at points in their lives, lived in redlined areas in the city of Chicago. There's actually a famous thing in Chicago called the Chicago Plan, where they literally segregated black people into certain areas of the city and redline those neighborhoods. Now, what is redlining? What happens when you redline? I think I have it explained here. Here it is. Redlining right here is a decades-old practice of marking maps by race to characterize the risk of lending money and providing insurance, made purchasing a home even more difficult for black veterans. Lenders froze out poor neighborhoods, ensuring that loan assistance and insurance will be denied, and new white suburbs often came with overtly racist covenants that denied entry to black people. This is absolutely true. There's a thing called white flight that happened. Whenever black people start moving to the neighborhood, all the white people leave. Then once all the white people leave, the folks who draw the districts and do all the zoning and different things like that, they draw these districts and these lines on the map. Congratulations, you're red line. The black neighborhoods are marked with the red line. All the other neighborhoods with the white people and stuff are marked with other lines. So the people that live in the red line areas, the banks know exactly where you live. How do they know this? Because when you go to the bank has to get your zip code. Once you put your zip code in, they're like, oh, wow, that's in a red line area. Denied. So because you live in these red-lined areas that were specifically designed by these racist systems that were put in place, this is part of the reason why black people own less homes than white people. Goes back to this number. This is the reason why black people, for the most part, have the lowest net worth out of every race of people. It is because of systems. I'm not making excuses here. I'm not saying, oh, woe is me, we're victims, blah, blah, blah. I'm just giving you guys the truth and the history. Now, does that mean that black people can't make it today? No, there's so much opportunity in the world to make it and do well for yourself. And I definitely think that even though there are some barriers for other races, there is still a lot of opportunity in this country to make it. However, the problem with me, Kevin, is in his video, he's making it seem as if it's everything. It's if you're white or if you're black, you automatically have a chance to make it. If you're black, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what age you are. Doesn't matter what you went through or the different systems in place. When honestly, guys, that's just not true. If you even take Chicago, for example, there are some kids in Chicago who unfortunately don't stand a chance. They live in horrible neighborhoods that were created that way by design because of redlining. They put all the poor black people together. That neighborhood is the pride of certain resources. They have bad school systems. You got the mass incarceration system, the school to prison pipeline, all these different things. These are real things. They are. They absolutely are. And because of that, even though technically, yes, that black person growing up in that neighborhood, if they work hard or whatever they do, could possibly potentially have a chance of making it in life, because they're so far back, because of the systems that were put in place, their chances are significantly smaller than a white person who grew up in a a really nice white neighborhood. And these are things that you have to talk about. So overall, in terms of the white privilege thing, does white privilege exist? I don't think you can really deny it. It does. It does. Now, I'm not saying that, because you're white, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that if you're white, you just automatically get whatever you want in this country without working hard. No, there are a ton of white people in this country who work their butts off to get to where they are. And there are a ton of white people in this country who grew up poor and grew up with nothing and worked their butts off to get to where they are. I'm not denying that. But when you look at these systems that were put in place that I just talked about, the appraisal thing, that is white privilege. Giving white people the fair value of their home or giving it a higher value because they're white is privilege. And then giving the black people the lower ones, but giving the white people the higher ones, is that not privilege? That is privilege. That doesn't mean that every single white person gets this privilege. But if we look at history, a lot of them did. You can't deny it. The last thing I want to talk about is the GI Bill, because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about this either. And I learned this when I was in school. I actually learned this. I remember when I was in, I don't know if it was college or high school, but I remember they talked about this in school. So for those who don't know, Roosevelt signed the New Deal, which gave all these benefits out. Black people were excluded from that, just so you guys know. You also had this thing called the GI Bill. Black people were excluded from that as well. And not only black people who actually served in the military and fought for the country were excluded from that. That GI Bill that came as a result of a lot of white people going and fighting in the war and being in the military allowed a lot of white people to build wealth, and it helped get to this number right here, where the median wealth of white families in 2016 is 171,000. And we're going to go ahead and break that down. So let me just go ahead and find it. When white lawmakers began drafting the GI Bill in 1944, some Southern Democrats feared that returning black veterans would use public sympathy for veterans to advocate against Jim Crow laws. For those who don't know we'll explain Jim Crow laws later. Well, yeah, whatever. To make sure the GI Bill largely benefited white people, the Southern Democrats drew on tactics they had previously used to ensure that the New Deal, which we just talked about, helped as few black people as possible. Okay? We're going to keep going. They're talking about this guy named John Rankin, who was a really racist Mississippi congressman. But I want to keep going. Here we go. From the start, black veterans had trouble securing the GI Bill's benefits. Some could not access benefits because they had been given an honorable discharge, and a much larger number of black veterans were discharged dishonorably than their white counterparts. Veterans who did qualify could not find facilities that delivered on the bill's promise. Black veterans in a vocational training program at a segregated high school in Indianapolis were unable. Okay. Simple intimidation kept others from enjoying GI benefits. In 1947, for example, a crowd hurled rocks at black veterans as they moved into a Chicago housing development. Thousands of black veterans were attacked in the years following World War II and were singled out, and some were lynched. See, this is what happened to black people who tried to get the GI Bill. There were white people who were so upset that they were trying to get the same benefits as them that they intimidated them, hurled rocks at them, and even lynched them to intimidate black people to stop them for trying to go for the GI Bill. So not only did you have discrimination from the lawmakers in the making of some of these policies, you had white people back in the day. I don't think you guys remember, but if you look at the civil rights movement, different things like that, yes, white people were spitting on black people, throwing rocks at them, beating them up, angry mobs, lynching them in order to intimidate them, to stop them from doing certain things like voting, trying to get these certain benefits and different things like that. You cannot deny this history, folks, Black veterans and civil rights groups were calling for protections and black involvement in the VA and discriminatory loans, but the racial disparities in the implementation of the GI Bill had already been set into motion. As the years went on, white veterans flowed into newly created suburbs where they began amassing wealth in skilled positions, but black veterans lacked those options. The majority of skilled jobs were given to white workers. That's the part B Kevin's not taking into account. And again, this history has an impact on today. We cannot deny that. Again, today is much better than it was 50 years ago. But that history still carries on. The legacy of that still carries on. It's not over. Just because things are better now doesn't mean it's over. A white post-war housing boom and redlining black neighborhoods. The post-war housing boom almost entirely excluded black Americans, most of whom remained in cities that received less and less investments from banks and businesses. Though GI Bill guaranteed low interest mortgages and other loans. So I need you guys to understand the GI Bill was a thing from the government where they guarantee low interest mortgages and other loans to people so they could buy homes. And this significantly helped people build wealth because they were able to get a home for a very low interest mortgage rate. Says here, thus VA could co-sign but not actually guarantee the loans. They gave white-run financial institutions free reign to refuse mortgages and loans to black people. Now remember, as a result of redlining, these white-run financial institutions, and I want you guys to understand, back in the day, white people controlled everything. All the institutions and banks were completely controlled by white people. There wasn't a black person in sight working there. So you got to take that history into account. See, this is the stuff that I'll be talking about right here. In 1947, and this is the part Kevin didn't talk about, meet drunk scam. In 1947, only two of the more than 3,200 VA guaranteed home loans in 13 Mississippi cities went to black borrowers. For those who don't know, the blackest state in the entire country is Mississippi. I need you guys to understand that. The state that has the biggest population of black people, from what I understand, is Mississippi. So it says here in 1947, only two of the more than 3,200 VA guaranteed home loans in 13 Mississippi cities went to black people. Out of 3,200 VA guaranteed home loans, two of the more went to black borrowers. Only two. These impediments were not confined to the South. Notes historian, blah, blah, blah. In New York, here we go. In New York, in the northern New Jersey suburbs, fewer than 100 of the 67,000 mortgages insured by the GI Bill supported home purchases by non-whites. Black veterans in search of education they had been guaranteed fared no better. Many black men returning home from the war didn't even try to take advantage of the bill's educational benefits. They cannot afford to spend time in school instead of working, but those who did were at a considerable disadvantage compared to their white counterparts. Public education provided poor preparation for black students, and many lacked much educational attainment at all due to poverty and social pressures. Let's see. Right here. As veteran applications flooded universities, black students often found themselves left out. Northern universities dragged their feet when it came to admitting black students in southern colleges, barred black students entirely, and the VA itself encouraged black veterans to apply for vocational training instead of university admission and arbitrarily denied educational benefits to some students. Those students who did try to attend college found doors closed at every turn. A full 95% of black veterans were shunned off to black college, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we get it. So, okay, I don't need this video to drag any longer. We've already been talking for 30 freaking minutes. Holy cow. I will say this. First off, if you watch the entire 32 minutes, you are the greatest human being in world history. You are incredible. I love you. You are a true supporter of this channel, and I appreciate it. And again, I just wish you health, abundance, wealth, prosperity, love, happiness, all that great stuff. You made it this far. Holy cow, 30 minutes. What a long video. Okay, I need to cut this video off. The main gist of what I'm trying to say here is, again, just because you're white does not mean that you didn't work hard for what you got. We're not saying that. There are plenty of white people who worked hard for what they got. And this country is all about working hard, for sure. This country really is the land of opportunity. And I love this country for that. Because in this country, you could literally come from an underprivileged background and you can make it in life. You can. You could come from another country that's literally getting bombed every day, and you can come to this country and become a multimillionaire. You can. It's absolutely incredible. However, you cannot deny the systemic racial systems that were put in place to keep black people from having the same access to certain benefits as white people. And that old money got passed down generations, and that's what led, folks, to this number right here. Median wealth for white families, 171,000. Median wealth for black, 17,000. Okay. Racial relations and wealth is really complicated. It's a complicated subject to talk about. But once again, I have to make this because we got to put Meat Drunk Scam to shame because he has no business talking about this stuff. And for the love of God, dude, change this profile pic. I mean, some people are going to get offended by it, okay? And I know some people did because I got emails from people who told me that they were offended by this picture that you put there. Like, just shut up. That's the best advice I could give you, Kevin. When it comes to racial relations, just shut up, dude. You don't know anything about it. And yeah. All right, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.